The shocking moment: a poor girl sat at the wrong table, ate the cake, then met her CEO. In a bustling downtown cafe, filled with the warm scent of fresh pastries and the hum of conversation, a curious little incident was about to unfold. Lila, a girl from the wrong side of town, wove through the sea of suited professionals, her heart racing. She had saved every cent she could to taste the famous chocolate cake that everyone raved about. But the moment she took a seat at a glitzy table, whispers spiraled around her. Some laughed, others arched their brows, sensing something was off. Was she lost? Did she even belong? The glimmering chandelier above cast a bright light on the absurdity of it all. Here she was, amongst the elite, with her worn sneakers and thrift store outfit. But the sight of that cake, the rich, dark chocolate dripping with decadent frosting, made her forget all of that. As Lila took that first taste, a wave of chocolate euphoria hit her. It was a moment of pure bliss, the kind that made her forget she was just a girl trying to make sense of a world that often felt against her. But her enjoyment was short-lived. A loud gasp cut through the cafe like a knife, and all heads turned to the back where the CEO of the entire company, the very table where she sat, was making his entrance. Eyes widened. Was he here to reprimand her? Did he notice her glaring mistake? His presence alone seemed to suck the air from the room. A cold sweat dripped down Lila's back, her heart thudding. The crowd trembled as if caught in a freeze frame, the buzzing energy morphing into a suspenseful silence. Could he possibly have seen her? Before we continue, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Incredibly, as Lila tried to sneak another bite, the CEO's gaze locked onto her. It was intense, like he was peering directly into her soul. The people around her exchanged frantic whispers, speculating about what might happen next. Did he bear down on her with fury, or would he extend understanding? Thoughts raced through her mind. Would this be a chance to turn her luck around, or a one-way ticket back to her old life? Time stood still, and for a fleeting moment, she felt the weight of all her dreams pressing down on her. How could one forkful of cake lead to something so wild? Everyone waited. What would happen next, and what lay ahead for the girl in the wrong place at the right time? The CEO, a striking figure with a tailored suit that seemed to mold perfectly to his frame, approached Lila with a measured stride. The whispers around her faded into a mere background murmur, her world narrowing to the rapid pounding of her heart. It felt like her chest was hijacked, each thud echoing louder than the last. "Excuse me," he said, his voice surprisingly warm amidst the brewing tension. "Is this seat taken?" She blinked, caught totally off guard. The CEO? This man was practically a legend in her world. She shook her head, dumbfounded, and he slid onto the chair across from her. A part of her screamed to run, to escape the spotlight that had suddenly focused entirely on her. "Why are you here?" he asked, his brows slightly furrowed. The curiosity in his voice was harsh. It felt like an invitation to breathe, to explain. But how could she? Words eluded her, tangled in her throat as she nervously pushed the remaining slice of chocolate cake further away. I wanted to try the cake," she managed, her voice barely rising above a whisper that he chuckled, sending a surprising blanket of warmth over her. "You picked the best spot then. It's reserved for special guests." His gaze flickered over to the buzzing crowd, and it was there, in that moment, that Lila caught sight of the envious looks being cast her way, looks that could easily turn into scorn. She stumbled. "I didn't realize." "No one ever does." He leaned in, his expression shifting to something more serious. "But you look like you could use a break from all the judgment." There was something genuine in his eyes, a spark that hinted at compassion rare in those of high status. Her heart raced faster. Was he for real? A CEO showing genuine interest in her? Or was this just another game played at her expense? The clinking of forks and the low drone of conversation surrounded them, yet all Lila could focus on was how tightly her palms gripped the edge of the table. "But you don't belong here, do you?" He pressed gently, the question hanging heavy in the air. The truth of it stung. She felt raw, exposed. "I'm just trying to enjoy something nice for once," she admitted, finally looking up to meet his gaze. There was a spark of understanding there, a recognition of her struggle. "You know what? I like that." He nodded, a slow smile creeping across his face which somehow lifted the clouds over her heart. "Why don't you tell me more about what you do when you're not tasting rich chocolate cake?" And just like that, Lila found herself talking, a flood of words spilling out, a lifetime of experiences wrapped in one moment. She spoke of her dreams, her struggles, the grind of life that often felt monotonous. It wasn't just a conversation, it felt like a lifeline thrown to her in a churning sea of doubt. Around them, the crowd continued to buzz, but an invisible barrier formed, keeping their world separate from all the stares and murmurs. Although there was a part of her that felt joy, a flicker of hope ignited the harsh reality stubbornly coiled in the back of her mind. What if this brief moment of connection was just a flash in the pan? What if the Cinderella moment turned back into a pumpkin once the cake was gone? Suddenly, his expression changed, and Lila noticed a shadow flicker over his face. "I wish I could do more to help you," he began, but his words trailed off, his eyes staring past her. "What do you mean?" she asked, fear curling in her belly. Before he could respond, he was interrupted by an urgent voice behind him. It was his assistant, eyes wide, lips moving rapidly as she whispered something directly into the CEO's ear. Lila held her breath, anxiety coursing through her. "I have to," he started, but the tension in his voice told her everything was not right. As he rose, a daunting question lingered in the air between them. What was coming next? And would the connection they just forged survive the chaos that loomed? With that, her hopes hung like a fragile thread. What would happen when the CEO disappeared and the realities of their worlds collided once again? As the CEO turned, a whirlwind of energy surged through the room, almost electric. Lila could barely process the frenzied look on his assistant's face, but the urgency in her voice was unmistakable. It wasn't just a casual conversation that had been interrupted, it was a lifeline unraveling in real time. "Wait!" Lila blurted out, desperation wrapping tight around her words. She didn't want this moment, this glimmer of connection, to dissipate. He paused, glancing back at her, a mixture of confusion and regret etched on his handsome features. "I'll come back," he promised, though the weight of uncertainty tugged at his words like lead. And then he was gone, swept away into the cacophony of the event, the spotlight shifting to him as if he were the sun and everyone else mere planets orbiting around. Alone, Lila felt the abrupt loss of warmth as the reality of her surroundings crashed back in. The sounds of laughter and chatter felt foreign now, the laughter almost mocking. She pushed the remaining crumbs of cake away, feeling an unsettling mix of shame and vulnerability burn her cheeks. Did she really think, for even a moment, that someone like him could genuinely care? She squirmed in her seat, thorns of doubt prickling her heart. More people were looking, whispers growing louder around her. Why was she still here? In this corner of the world, where she didn't belong, facing a growing tide of scorn. Her fingers trembled, brushing against her phone as if it were an anchor, something solid in a sea of chaos. She clicked it on, thinking of sending a message to her friend for a rescue, but stopped as she realized how hollow the gesture felt. Look at her. What a loser, she overheard a nearby group snicker, and her heart plunged. Those were the words that echoed in her mind, replaying the moment just before the CEO had appeared. She glanced up, the world around her blurring through tears that threatened to spill. Just as she focused on her escape, a sharp voice rang out above the din. Why don't you just leave? It was a woman, sharply dressed and brimming with disdain, eyes locked onto her with certainty. You obviously don't fit in. The accusation stung worse than any physical blow. Lila's throat tightened. This was at the true face of the world she stepped into with such naive hope. It felt like being surrounded by wolves, their hunger palpable, the thrill of the chase ignited. Enough, Melissa, came a voice from behind her, low yet commanding. Lila turned to see a burly man in a dark suit step up to the table, his jaw clenched and eyes hard. "You're being rude." The tension shifted, people afraid to engage or object now. Lila couldn't tell if the man's intervention was a blessing or just a shift in the predators circling around her, but a moment later, glimmers of potential hope interrupted her chaotic thoughts as the CEO re-entered the space. His gaze locked onto hers, more intense than before. There was a burning determination in his eyes that sent flares of warmth flooding through her despair. "Lila," he called out, weaving between the tables, urgency propelling him forward. Every head turned as he advanced, the room holding its breath. "What just happened?" he demanded, coming to a halt beside her. She felt herself shrink under the weight of uncertainty, the past moments flooding in like a crushing wave. She started, but the words danced on the tip of her tongue, tangled in a knot of trepidation and embarrassment. He crouched down, eye level with her. "What did they say, Lila?" His voice was fierce yet gentle, and against the noise around them, the sincerity cut through like an oasis in a desert of judgments. Before she could respond, the atmosphere shifted again, sharp and icy. Whispers exploded anew, and the entire gathering turned its attention to a figure arriving at the entrance, closely followed by yet another well-dressed entourage. Lila's heart raced. Who was this new arrival? Just as they stepped into view, she felt the air grow heavy with secrets and hidden motives. Each face displayed a mix of fawning admiration and bitterness. "What's happening now?" she thought, a cold knot settling low in her gut. Because whatever was about to unfold, she knew it would change everything. The CEO stood, still looking at her, as if sensing the storm brewing. "Stay close to me," he ordered, but Lila couldn't shake the feeling that chaos was about to ensue. What had she stumbled into, and how was this night going to unravel? The flicker of fear ignited within her, begging the question, could anyone, even him, shield her from the tempest that seemed inevitable? The new arrival was a tall man, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit that shimmered in the ambient light. His entrance was met with gasps and hushed whispers. Lila watched as he moved through the crowd with an air of authority, the kind that demanded every eye. He was captivating, the power radiating from him was almost palpable. "Who is that?" Lila whispered, her heart racing yet again. The CEO beside her tensed, his jaw tightening. "Maxwell Kessler," he replied, the name bitter on his lips as if it left a bad taste in his mouth. "He's a competitor, one of the most ruthless in the industry." Lila's breath caught. This was not just some athlete or entertainer, this man was a titan in the world they navigated. As if sensing their gaze, Maxwell turned, his piercing blue eyes locking onto Lila's. The moment felt electric, igniting both fear and intrigue within her. She felt exposed under that stare, as if he could see right through her facade, to her insecurities and ambitions. "Don't let him intimidate you," the CEO murmured, his voice firm and resolute. Lila tried to muster a response but was utterly consumed by the shift in atmosphere. Guests buzzed with speculation and interest, and suddenly, her small corner in the world felt monumentally confined. What's his angle? She thought, the questions swirling in her mind like a tempest. Lila couldn't shake the feeling that she was caught in the eye of a brewing storm. Maxwell took the stage, raising a glass high above his head. "Ladies and gentlemen," his smooth voice belied a steel beneath the charm. "Tonight, we are not merely celebrating accomplishments, we're redefining success." His words dripped with persuasive confidence, and the audience leaned in, captivated. Lila felt the CEO's presence loom beside her. "He's manipulating them," he whispered, his voice cloaked in tension. "Watch closely." As Maxwell's speech surged to a crescendo, Lila could feel the tension in the air coil tighter. Audience members nodded as if entranced, partially caught in the web of his allure. But there was something dark lurking beneath the polished exterior. The moment twisted in Lila's gut, a pulse of foreboding and dread. Why does he keep looking this way? She thought, anxiety sharpening her senses. Suddenly, Maxwell broke from the stage and, to her shock, started walking directly toward them. Cheers followed him, his charisma captivating the room. Fear trickled back in. What would he say? Would he seek to undermine his opponent, to expose weaknesses? Stay calm, the CEO reassured her, his voice low and steady. They stood side by side as Maxwell drew nearer, a snake gliding gracefully, poised to strike. And who do we have here? Maxwell inquired, his smile charming yet predatory. Lila, is it? Lila blinked, throat tightening. How did he know her name? A feeling of vulnerability washed over her, leaving her exposed. Yes, she barely managed to say, the weight of uncertainty heavy in her chest. I hope you're enjoying the party, he continued, his gaze flickering between her and the CEO, mischief dancing in his eyes. It's quite the spectacle tonight. His smile was disarming, but Lila sensed the menace lurking just behind it. Enjoyment is not what I associate with this gathering, Lila shot back, defiant but inwardly quaking. Maxwell tilted his head, intrigued. Bold move, Lila. I like that. Each word dripped with a challenge, sending a jolt of adrenaline coursing through her veins. The CEO stiffened beside her, ready to leap into action. Lila, he began, but Lila was already spiraling into a silent battle within herself. Could she hold her ground against these titans? What power play was taking place right now, and where did her own story begin to unfurl? Questions swelled inside her, and as Maxwell flashed a toothy grin, Lila's heart thundered. The stage was set, the stakes were rising. But she could feel that something darker lingered just beneath the surface, like a shadow creeping closer in the night. Could she navigate this treacherous game, or was she already destined to be the prey? In that moment, she realized. It was no longer just about her embarrassment or fears. This was about power dynamics, allegiances, and survival. What game awaited her as the room broiled with tension? Maxwell's smile widened, a wolf eyeing its prey, and the air hung thick with an unspoken challenge. Lila could feel the pulse of the room guests darting glances between her and the enigmatic man who stood within arm's reach, every word oscillating between charm and threat. What are you really here for, Maxwell? She wanted to ask, yet the words were lodged in her throat like a stone. Instead, she stood frozen, the weight of his gaze a palpable pressure that pushed down on her. Tell me, he said, leaning a fraction closer, a glimmer of excitement dancing in his eyes. What do you think success looks like? Lila's pulse quickened. The question felt like a trap, as if he was daring her to reveal her deepest insecurities. She could hear murmurs ripple through the crowd, and the intensity of their attention felt suffocating. The CEO beside her opened his mouth, but the words never made it out. Success is different for everyone, she managed, her voice trembling. For some, it's wealth, for others, power or influence. Maxwell chuckled lightly, a sound that gave Lila chills. Ah, but do they ever realize that true power is wielded by those who know how to manipulate those definitions? His tone shifted, growing darker. Everyone is a pawn in someone else's game, Lila. The question is, who's playing yours? Lila's breath hitched. The words sunk into her, wrapping around her thoughts like vines around an old tree. Had she been playing her own game, or was she as oblivious as he suggested? Suddenly, Maxwell straightened and pivoted, directing his full attention back to the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen. Your attention, please. His voice commanded instant compliance, and the murmurs drowned into silence. Tonight marks a pivotal moment, an unveiling of a partnership that will change the course of our industry. The atmosphere shifted dramatically. Spectators shifted eagerly, their eyes sparkling with anticipation. What could this be? Lila thought as her stomach churned. Maxwell's charisma sparkled. With the right alliances and strategy, we can all carve our mark in history. He gestured elegantly, and everyone leaned in closer, hanging on his every word. As he spoke, Lila felt a tremor of uncertainty. Was she really ready to take risks in a world dominated by titans? The CEO's caution echoed in her mind as Maxwell's speech worked like a hypnotic spell on the audience. Then, out of the corner of her eye, Lila noticed another figure emerging from the crowd, skin bright against the darkness, a woman, sharply dressed yet with a playful devil-may-care attitude. Instantly, Lila recognized her. She'd seen her at earlier gatherings, a well-known influencer who thrived on scandals and whispered secrets. What is she doing here? Lila wondered, her heart racing as intuition pricked at her senses. The woman glided towards them, drawn in by Maxwell's magnetic presence, a predator seeking stability amid the chaos. Lila, I want you to meet our special guest, Maxwell announced, his voice smooth yet conspiratorial. The attention shifted as the influencer smiled charmingly, her aura emanating a mix of mischief and charm. Before Lila could comprehend the situation, the influencer leaned close. You're in deep waters, aren't you? This guy he's captivating, but he's dangerous. Keep your eyes open. Lila's breath caught again, her heart thudding like a heavy drum in her chest. An unexpected warning rang in her ears, mingling with Maxwell's confident voice echoing behind her. And in this new partnership, he continued, the rules will be rewritten, alliances forged, and dreams realized. Lila shifted, her head spinning. Misplaced, isolated, her foundation felt shaky. She had entered a game that she hadn't fully understood. Would she be able to adapt, to navigate this treacherous landscape? Or was she destined to become just another casualty in Maxwell's game? As the crowd erupted into applause, Lila's mind surged with doubt and uncertainty. The stakes were higher than she'd anticipated. But at that moment, a flicker of determination ignited within her. She wasn't just going to be a pawn. She would be more. She had to figure out what Maxwell was truly after, and how she could turn this situation to her advantage. But could she unearth the secrets before it was too late? The crowd buzzed around her, anticipation crackling in the air like electricity. The real game was just beginning. As the applause subsided, the air felt electric, charged with promises and unspoken menace. Lila stood entranced by the moment, feeling as if the world around her had slowed to an agonizing crawl. Her heart hammered in her chest, each beat a reminder that she was now entangled in this chaotic web. Maxwell maintained his poise, basking in the attention like a star, while Lila's mind raced to catch up. She had a decision to make: play it safe or dive deeper into the storm brewing inside that elegantly appointed room. Her gaze flicked to the influencer beside her, who watched with a smirk, as if she knew every secret that lay beneath the surface. What happens now? Lila whispered, her voice barely breaking through the crowd's chatter filled with excitement. The influencer leaned in, her tone conspiratorial. You'll see. But be careful, many have underestimated him and paid dearly. This isn't just a corporate alliance, it's a chess game, and he holds all the pieces. Lila's eyes widened, the realization hitting her hard. Maxwell was not just charismatic, he was calculating and ruthless. With a flick of a wrist, he could turn allies into enemies, collaborations into ruins. She needed to hear more, to gather information that could place her in a better position. Maxwell seemed to sense the shift in her energy. Lila, he called, and the crowd parted like waves around her. Join me. I'll show you what true success looks like. With her heart pounding, Lila's feet finally moved, each step a mix of dread and exhilaration. She approached him, feeling the weight of every gaze in the room. The influencer watched, her smile fading slightly, an unspoken warning hanging in the air. What is it you want from me, Maxwell? Lila asked, refusing to let him control the narrative completely. His smile deepened, a flash of predatory delight flickering in his eyes. Just your potential, Lila. I see greatness buried beneath uncertainty. We could create something together, something spectacular. You have a voice that could echo through this industry. She stood rooted, uncertainty sending ripples through her resolve. What did he truly mean by that? Was he simply flattering her, or did he genuinely believe in her abilities? The stakes were swelling like a tide, yet the shoreline seemed blurred. Why me? She pressed, though she could feel her defenses waver. He stepped closer, and the air thickened between them. Because I know you. The way you stand alone among this crowd, the way you question everything. You're different, Lila. You're a wild card, and wild cards usually lead to winning hands. Before she could respond, a sharp gasp echoed from nearby. Lila turned to see the influencer backing away slightly, her face pale. We need to leave. This isn't safe, she murmured, urgency gripping her voice. Lila felt her heart leap into her throat. What do you mean? The influencer's eyes darted over the crowd before locking onto Maxwell with a fierceness that made Lila shiver. He collects people like trophies. Once you're in his grasp, getting out becomes impossible. Maxwell observed the exchange with amusement, leaning back slightly as if he was watching a play unfold. You should listen. The best gambits are those that leave your opponents guessing. The tension escalated dramatically, every heartbeat drumming painfully against her chest. Lila understood now that stepping into Maxwell's world meant risking everything. But would backing away only create a new danger? Would she be running from shadows only to be consumed by them? I can't just walk away, Lila finally whispered, half to herself. The influencer stepped closer, her voice low and biting. Then don't say I didn't warn you. In that moment, an idea sparked in Lila's mind. What if she turned this entire situation on its head? What if she played the game on her own terms? With her heart racing, she looked back at Maxwell, a newfound determination settling over her. Fine. Count me in. But just know I'm not going to be your pawn. A glimmer of intrigue passed through Maxwell's expression, and she sensed the shift in energy between them. It was a bold move, and it could either be her salvation or her downfall. Now, that's the spirit. Maxwell exclaimed, his smile dangerously wide. As the crowd erupted in cheers for their unmarked future, a shadow crossed Lila's mind. What lay ahead in this twisted gamble? And how far would she need to go to uncover the truth behind Maxwell's intentions? The applause enveloped her, but beneath it, a chilling realization settled in. The clock was ticking, and she was on an unpredictable countdown. Would she discover the truth before Maxwell wrestled her into a corner, or would she find her real strength before the game took a dark turn? Somewhere amidst the swirling chaos, an unexpected alliance started to form, but at what cost? The cheers faded, and Lila felt the world narrow down to the space between her and Maxwell. All eyes were on them now, the crowd intoxicatingly eager to witness her decision. She didn't dare look back at the influencer, too afraid the urgency in her voice would eclipse her newfound boldness. Welcome to the team, Maxwell said, his voice smooth as silk, yet underlined with an edge. But remember, Lila, the game is just beginning. You'll need to make your moves wisely. His eyes sparkled with something dark, a challenge swimming beneath the surface. Lila squared her shoulders, refusing to let her fear seep into her stance. She wasn't about to show weakness. Not now. Right, so what's first? She asked, pushing through the knot in her stomach. Maxwell waved his hand, and the crowd shifted, parting like a curtain. He led her to a darker corner of the room, a less crowded space filled with shadows, where the music felt distant, almost muted. Lila's heart raced, but she held her ground as he leaned closer, the scent of his cologne wrapping around her. First, we need to talk alliances, he said, his breath warm against her ear. You need to know who to trust. And the truth is, he paused, letting his words hang like a teasing melody. Lila leaned in, tinged with both curiosity and dread, wanting to partake of the secrets she sensed lurking. Trust is a luxury in this world, he continued, his voice dropping to a whisper. Many here would smile at you now, but don't be fooled. They're sharks in designer suits. You, my dear, must learn not only to swim but to bite back. Chills danced down her spine. And what if I don't want to swim in those waters? She replied, testing the line between defiance and cooperation. Maxwell chuckled, a low sound that dripped with those predatory qualities she had noticed before. Oh, Lila, it's too late for that. You're already in. Before he could say more, an abrupt crash shattered their moment, a nearby table collapsing under the weight of several champagne glasses, bronze and silver shards scattering across the polished floor. Gasps rippled through the crowd as people jolted back, a wave of shock breaking the cheerful atmosphere. Lila's pulse quickened, and she instinctively stepped closer to Maxwell, but he remained immobile, his expression unfazed, as if chaos was simply part of the game. Here they come, he mused, almost to himself. This is where the real show begins. From the rising noise, authority figures shattered the calm, security personnel pushed through the crowd, tensions mounting like a coiled spring. Lila felt dread wash over her. What was Maxwell sensing that she was not? The influencer emerged from the crowd, her eyes wide and frantic, darting around as if searching for an escape. When she spotted Lila, panic set in. "You have to choose quickly," she shouted, voice strained. "You can't trust him." Maxwell's laughter rang out, rich and mocking. "Ah, there it is. The warning from the supposed prophet. Don't you see, Lila? She's trying to save herself, not you." Lila stood frozen as the influencer rushed forward, her face desperate. "They want you to fail, Lila. All of them. This isn't what you think, he's playing a game you can't win." An intense heat engulfed Lila. She felt like a pawn pinned between two masters, one promising power, the other warning of danger. Lila had stepped into the storm, but now the winds were howling. "Choose." Maxwell's voice was sharp, slicing through the chaos. "Stay with me or succumb to the fear." Seconds ticked by. The choices loomed larger than life, heavier than any burden she'd ever carried. With each heartbeat, the crowd's murmurs grew louder, breaths caught anxiously in throats. Finally, Lila took a deep breath, looking from the influencer's frantic eyes to Maxwell's calculating gaze. But the shifting tides of the room made her heart thunder. What will it be, Lila? The thrill of temptation and danger crackled between them, and she knew this was a defining instant. As the tension danced dangerously around her, Lila felt the pieces align in ways she couldn't yet understand. The stakes were more than just a game. "Let us find out who the real players are," she murmured, steeling herself against the whirlwind. And as she made her choice, something inside her shifted. The game she entered was about to unfold, and she was ready to uncover the twists ahead, even if that meant confronting truths that could shatter everything she believed. The crowd held its collective breath as she plunged into a game more treacherous than she ever imagined. What would the next round bring? Would she rise, or would the pieces of her world come crashing down around her? A chilling realization flickered in the back of her mind. The real threats were just beginning to materialize. Lila barely had time to register her choice before she felt the ground shift beneath her. The influencer's warning hung in the air like a storm cloud, yet Maxwell's grip on her wrist was firm, anchoring her to him and the decision she had just made. "Good choice," he said, his smile wide and confident, but she caught the glint in his eyes, a darkness that unnerved her. Before she could respond, a deafening shriek cut through the chaos. "Lila!" The influencer's voice sliced through the chaos. "Don't do this." The crowd surged, pressing in around them, and Lila felt her heartbeat thunder in her ears. She was in a whirlwind of glitzy outfits and expensive colognes, drowning in the scent of fear and ambition. As Maxwell moved with deliberate grace through the throng, Lila choked back the doubt that gnawed at her. They slipped behind a velvet curtain that stood ominously at the edge of the chaos, isolating them from the fray. The music faded to a low hum, and in this temporary reprieve, Lila tried to catch her breath. Maxwell, she ventured cautiously, but he raised a hand, silencing her. "No more small talk," he stated, his tone turning steely. "It's time for the real game to begin." He gestured toward a dim room illuminated only by the flickering light of an old chandelier. An unfamiliar chill ran down her spine as she stepped inside. The air thickened, carrying a scent of decay. She glanced back at the curtain as the muffled noise of the party faded completely, swallowed by this new space. "Here, you'll learn what you need to know," he said, pacing like a predator sizing up its prey. "Each of those friends out there is a potential enemy. They'll conspire, and it won't be long before they turn against you. You must see everything clearly." Her instincts screamed at her to flee, but something else tugged at her, an undeniable urge to understand this dangerous new world. "What do you mean? What's the catch?" He paused, turning to face her with an intensity that set her heart racing. "The catch is you, Lila. You're a pawn, and I'm betting on you. But I need to know if you can handle the stakes. Can you keep your head when the game turns ugly?" Just as she opened her mouth to protest, the door slammed shut behind her. The sound echoed ominously in the confined space. Lila turned, her pulse quickening as she felt trapped, the heavy atmosphere pressing in around her. What was that? She whispered, fear clawing at her throat. Maxwell's smirk returned, but something deeper was lurking behind it. Let's just say, there are consequences for those who overstep in this game. He stepped closer, and the flickering light cast unsettling shadows across his face. Trust me, you're not in Kansas anymore. Before she could react, loud footsteps echoed outside the door. The sounds grew louder, coming closer, accompanied by low voices murmuring urgently. Lila's gut twisted. Were they coming for her? Don't panic, Maxwell instructed, but the way he positioned himself in front of her made Lila's heart race for reasons more complicated than fear alone. What's happening? She asked, eyes darting toward the door, her breath quickening. Remember, Lila, his voice lowered, firm yet cautious. You don't want to be uninvited, do you? With that, a sharp knock jolted through the room, followed by a voice she recognized all too well, the influencer. Lila. Are you in there? You need to come with me, now. Maxwell's stern expression changed ever so slightly, a flicker of something dark crossing his face. Why would she want to follow you when I can offer her so much more? An icy dread coiled in Lila's stomach. She felt the walls closing in as she stood torn between the safety of the influencer's warning and the tantalizing power spelled by Maxwell's offer. Please. Lila, they're not who you think. The desperation in the influencer's voice sliced through her resolve. You have to decide. Tick-tock, time was running out as the minutes stretched like thin threads of tension in the air. Lila sensed this was a pivotal moment. Every instinct told her that choosing poorly could lead to a fate worse than she could imagine. As the door rattled again, heart hammering against her ribs, Lila knew she had to make a choice that could change everything. And in that split second, she felt the ground shifting once again beneath her feet. Who will it be, Lila? Maxwell pressed, his eyes dark and hungry. The danger outside, or the game within? The question echoed like a gunshot, leaving her breathless. Outside the door awaited unknown threats, and with a glance at Maxwell, she felt the thrill of peril and power entwined. What awaited her as she took that decisive step forward into the depth of this darkness? Something primal whispered to her, the game was only just beginning. The room felt like a pressure cooker, every second stretching longer as Lila weighed her options. Maxwell stood before her, a conspiratorial gleam in his eye, while the influencer's frantic voice continued to filter through the door with mounting urgency. The fabric of the moment was taut, straining against the weight of her indecision. The voices outside seemed to fade, leaving only the pulse of her heartbeat, and the warmth of Maxwell's presence enveloped her like a hot sun. She was caught. The influencer's warning rattled in her mind, but so did the allure of power that Maxwell promised. She could feel the electricity in the air, and it ignited something deep within her. Lila. Maxwell coaxed, his voice softening as if he sensed her faltering resolve. You can't deny the opportunity at hand. Take control of your destiny. Control? She echoed, her voice barely above a whisper. Or chaos? His smile widened, but the shadows that clung to him only deepened. What's the difference? Embrace chaos, and it becomes yours to wield. The seductive charm of his words tugged at her instincts, waking a buried part of her that craved thrill. She glanced at the door again. Would stepping out lead to safety or a reckoning? Would the influencer guide her to a path of certainty, or was she merely a pawn in someone else's game? Lila. The influencer's voice rose a pitch. Please. You don't know what you're doing. Suddenly, the door rattled more violently, urgency resonating in every knock. Lila jumped, a jolt of panic pushing her step closer to Maxwell. The flickering light of the chandelier caught the tension on his face, morphing it into a mask of determination. Make your choice, he urged, leaning in. What do you want? To be a player or to be played? A cold sweat broke on her brow. This was no ordinary decision. Her whole life had led to this moment, the crescendo of her mundane existence rising into a symphony of perilous ambition. She felt herself standing on the edge, staring into an abyss that could either swallow her whole or give birth to something extraordinary. What if I don't trust you? She floated, uncertainty lacing her words. Then why are you here? The challenge in his demeanor sharpened. You're here because deep down, you want a taste of the forbidden. You want to know what it feels like to grasp something beyond your reach. He stepped back slightly, arms crossed, assessing her as if he were deciding her fate. That a loud bang sounded against the door, rattling the frame as if someone was determined to break through. Lila's heart raced. Lila. The influencer's voice was frantic now, laced with real fear. It's not just the game inside that's dangerous. You're putting yourself at risk. Maxwell's gaze darkened, a predator's stare. Ignore her. She's trying to protect her own interests, he spat, moving a step closer, a menacing edge creeping into his words. The tension swirled, Lila could almost taste it, bitter and electric at once. Every muscle in her body screamed to stay, yet every nerve whispered to run. Time stood still as she realized she needed to declare her allegiance. But then, something shifted. A heavy thud shook the door again, accompanied by a voice that chilled her blood. If you don't open this door, there will be consequences. A chill swept over her. A figure in her mind clawed at the cataclysm of secrets, the sharp edges of which she only began to glimpse. Would she choose the wolf or the threat lurking just beyond? Make your choice now. Maxwell's voice drew her back, steady and compelling, yet laced with a note of impatience, and as the door splintered with a resounding crack, Lila's breath hitched. In that moment, she felt the earth drop away beneath her. The room spun, shadows stretching and converging as she grappled with the only question that mattered: was she ready to embrace the chaos? With a steely resolve unfurling within her, she took a breath. Maybe I'll choose both, but first, I need to see what's waiting beyond that door. Before she could process the implications, she reached for the handle, her heart pounding louder than ever. And then, a primal scream erupted from beyond, echoing through the room. What had she just unleashed? As Lila turned the handle, the door swung open with a violent force, revealing a scene that sent icy daggers racing down her spine. The crowd beyond the threshold was a tempest of confusion, fear, and barely contained chaos. She could see the influencer, frantic and wide-eyed, standing off to one side, pleading for her to step back. Lila. The influencer shouted, the urgency in her voice sharper than a knife. You shouldn't be here. You have to come with me. But Lila hesitated as her gaze fell on Maxwell, whose smug smile remained steadfast, even in the face of unraveling chaos. He sauntered into view, a picture of calm amidst the fervor. See, Lila? He said, his voice smooth as silk. This is just the beginning of the game. Let us seize the moment. What is happening? Lila felt her heart throb against her chest, the weight of uncertainty pushing down harder. She took a step back, glancing between Maxwell's predatory demeanor and the influencer's frantic warnings. People have lost control, the influencer shouted, as a commotion erupted behind her. Security personnel ushered guests away, faces filled with uncertainty and fear. You're not safe here. They don't care about you. Suddenly, a chilling laugh rang out from the crowd, and Lila felt a chill crawl down her spine. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, yet something in her longed to stay, to confront whatever lay in front of her. She was on the precipice of something monumental, and there was no turning back now. Maxwell stepped closer, his expression unreadable. This chaos is simply a test, he said, his words oozing with confidence. Those who falter will be left behind. You have a chance to rise above it all. The influencer shook her head vigorously, stepping into Lila's path. Don't listen to him. You don't understand what you're walking into. This isn't game, it's dangerous. You don't know who he really is. Maxwell rolled his eyes, glancing dismissively at the influencer. Oh, please. All she wants is to protect her own interests, he said, his voice dripping with disdain. Lila felt like a ping-pong ball, caught in an emotional match between two titans of power, her breath catching in her throat. She glanced at the swirling mass of confusion in the crowd and knew she had to choose one path leading to safety and one leading into the depths of the unknown. "I'm tired of being afraid," she shouted, her voice gaining strength. "I'm tired of hiding." She felt the thrill of adrenaline surge through her, and with it came clarity. The voice of fear and caution rang loud, but beneath it lay a spark of defiance she never knew she had. "Let us flip the script, shall we?" Lila declared, locking eyes with Maxwell once more. "I refuse to be your pawn." She could see surprise flicker across his face, briefly extinguished by an enigmatic smile. "Now you're speaking my language," he replied, amusement dancing in his eyes. "Welcome to the game, Lila. But remember, it won't be easy." With newfound determination, Lila turned to the influencer. "You didn't warn me just for yourself. You genuinely care." She stepped closer, cutting through the chaos. "If I'm going to navigate this world, I need help. Trust her, Lila." The influencer shouted, moving closer, urgency in every word. "You have more to lose than you realize. The stakes are deadly." Just then, a loud crash interrupted the moment. A glass shattered to the floor, drawing every gaze and causing a wave of startled gasps. The tension hovered thickly in the air, and Lila realized just how sharp the edge of this world really was. But as she looked into the influencer's eyes, she saw a bond forged by shared fears, echoing with her own resolve. "Let us figure this out together," Lila said firmly, reaching out and taking the influencer's hand. "I don't have to face this alone." Maxwell's expression collapsed into something darker, anger and curiosity clashing in his gaze. "What a pity this moment could have catapulted you." But Lila felt the surge of empowerment rush through her as she pressed on, her resolve resonating bright. "You may think you control the game, but it's time we rewrote our rules." In that instant, the atmosphere shifted. With the influencer's presence amplifying her courage, Lila dared to look beyond the chaos of the moment. "You won't intimidate me, Maxwell," she declared, her voice unwavering. "And you won't drown out my ambition," he shot back, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. Amid the tumult, Lila was struck by a revelation. This wasn't just a game of power, it was about unity, strength, and the choices that left room for both vulnerability and courage. Together, they were creating a new dynamic that could rewrite every rule in the book. As the crowd spun wildly around them, the tension morphed, coaxing out simmering truths surfacing like bubbles. The swirling mass of ambition, uncertainty, and triumph coalesced into something beautiful, and Lila took a step forward, the door to her future wide open. With an outstretched hand, she invited others to join. "Are you with me?" The moment hung suspended in the air, full of promise, as the crowd pulsed with renewed energy, the lines of an untold story waiting to unfold, and as they filled the space beside her, Lila felt the chains of doubt begin to break. This was just the beginning, the moment she chose to not simply survive but to thrive. And she was ready to face the whirlwind ahead. Now, what will your next move be? You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And please, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.